All right, test classification. So types of tests. Let's answer these questions. Yeah, let's. I think I'll break you into breakout rooms, and you'll have to discuss these questions. All right, for like 5 minutes. Then you'll come back to the main session, and then we'll discuss all together. All right, here we are. We are back to main session. And let's answer the first question. Yeah, like, why do we need language tests?
If you need tests first to identify the levels, we usually use the placement tests for them. Second, we need to see the progress of the students, as we are all teachers, and we need to get the feedback from the students if they understand the classes that we teach. So that's the progress tests. And the third one is, the entrance tests that usually are taken by some institutions, for the applications. That's it.
Okay. All right, let's continue. Yeah. So you actually mentioned many aspects why we need tests. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. And these are the desirable qualities of a test. So each test should have these qualities. It should be valid. It should be reliable. It should be practical. And it must have beneficial backwash effects. Yeah. So we'll discuss these topics a bit later, next week. But yeah, let's talk about backwash. So we'll just touch on these topics today. Backwash is the effect of testing on learning and teaching. Yeah, and it might be beneficial or harmful. Yeah. So if students feel that they learn something from these tests, if they feel positive, if they feel that they really making progress, let's say so, if the tests are not too easy, if the tests are not too difficult, if the tests measure what they should measure, then students might have a beneficial backwash effect. However, and vice versa, if the tests are too difficult, if they feel that they don't learn anything, or if the tests are too easy, if they're not relevant, this is why Jente is criticized a lot. There are a lot of irrelevant questions. Some of them are actually okay, but some are really irrelevant. This is why it has a negative backwash effect. Yeah? And teaching is always important. Teaching is always paramount. So teaching comes first. Testing comes second. Right? So testing shouldn't come first. Nevertheless, good tests sometimes can compensate. They sometimes can compensate bad teaching if tests are good. For example, if you use FCE, or I don't know, CATs or PETs at lower levels, they can compensate bad teaching as well. Because I remember when I worked at school, there were 7th graders. They came up to me and asked this question, like, teacher, we had a test today, and it was from teacher's book. At the time, we didn't have internet. It was very slow, and the students didn't use internet that much. So they couldn't find it, and download the questions beforehand. So they asked me the question, which I did, I answered. And they said, well, our teacher said that the answer is B, for example, not A. What do you think? And I said, well, it's definitely, for example, A, but the teacher insisted on the wrong answer. So in that case, bad teaching actually was compensated by good tests. So students actually were right, and they asked another teacher, which proves that they were right. All right, inaccurate tests. Well, there are two main sources of inaccuracy. First is the content and techniques, and second is lack of reliability. So again, I will mention Jente here. The content sometimes is not relevant, or like they ask questions about types of syllables. What type of syllable is it? As if it has something to do with pronunciation. They'd rather use they'd rather use pronunciation tests like odd one out. But surprisingly, they don't use odd one out technique. It is forbidden. I don't know why. Maybe because they're afraid that students can come up with an alternative answer, which might be the case. Yeah. This is why they avoid using odd one out technique. 2 years ago, I was invited to a testing center. It is located in Abay University. I was invited there as an expert who had to evaluate the tests that were created. And in the rules that they give us, I read that, you cannot use odd one out technique. Yeah. If you would like to correct some items, don't use it. I was really surprised. The other type of question that they ask are culture questions, yeah, or geography questions. What is the capital of, I don't know, Kathmandu? What color is the flag of Serbia or whatever? Yeah, they ask questions like this, which are completely irrelevant. And reliability, yeah, the second source of inaccuracy. We'll talk about it tomorrow, next week. Tomorrow, say next week, yeah. All right, the need for tests, but we still need them, right? We still need the tests. We still need them because it's a necessary evil. We have to see the difference between students. We have to see if they're making any progress and to give feedback, as many of you mentioned, which is good. So we need some information about people's abilities, or when we put them placement test, for example, right? When we need to put students into appropriate levels. If there is all language courses, they use placement tests, yeah. And as I've mentioned before, teaching is primary, testing comes second. All right, let's continue with types of testing. So first is proficiency tests, yeah. Proficiency tests are the ones which evaluate students' proficiency regardless of their previous training. Yeah, and they are what? They are IELTS, for example, TOEFL, FCE. Yeah, these tests are actually proficiency ones. Yeah, proficiency tests. So they are not like progress tests. The difference between proficiency and progress. In progress tests, we want to see the progress. Students learn first, and during the course, we check them. Yeah. But in proficiency tests, we are not interested in their progress. We are interested in their level, how good they are at their proficiency. Diagnostic tests, the second type, are designed to identify students' strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, we can have them in the beginning of the course. Yeah, so it might be like a 50 or 100 item quiz, a test. Yeah, you give it to students, and then you can focus on their weaknesses, or you can see what you need to focus on. Yeah, they're called learner needs. We can focus on learner needs. Yeah, if it is especially multiple choice test, you can use scanners. We have a lot of online scanners nowadays, applications. ZipGrade, for example, I used ZipGrade last year. It gives you information, it gives you feedback on mistakes as well. Like 37% of students made a mistake in question number 5, for example. Yeah, you can have a look, you can see it immediately, and you can focus on that. This is the beauty of multiple choice tests and scanners. Yeah, if you use scanners. All right, achievement tests. These are actually their name actually tells for themselves. Yeah, so we want to see how well students achieve the goals, and they divide it into 2 parts, like progress tests and final exam. Yeah, final tests. So we have progress tests during the course. Yeah, and we have final at the end of the course. You can also use pop quizzes. Yeah, I use pop quizzes sometimes, from time to time. What is a pop quiz? Pop quiz is when students are not aware when the test is going to take place. Yeah? So you don't tell them beforehand. We usually tell students beforehand when they have progress tests or final, for example. Yeah, but you can also have pop quizzes. But if you are going to have them, you must include it in the syllabus and inform your students that, well, we are going to have pop quizzes in our course, so you must be ready whenever we have them. I'm not going to tell you when we're going to have them, so you must be ready on you must study on a regular basis. Yeah. So this is the idea. This is the purpose of pop quizzes. Placement tests. Yeah, Ruslan mentions placement tests. Yeah, we use them to place our students to their levels, and we use them in mostly language courses. Some schools also divide students into groups, like beginner, elementary, or it might be elementary, pre-intermediate. So they divide them into groups. Sometimes we don't have this luxury. If we don't have this luxury, then you should vary your tasks and goals. Yeah, lesson goals, like for easy task, average task, and difficult task. Yeah. Direct versus indirect. Well, make a mistake here with direct and indirect. The testing is said to be direct if students perform in that skill. For example, if it is a listening test, students should listen. They should not read the script. Yeah. If it is a writing test, it should be an essay. It shouldn't be fill in the gaps or multiple choice test on terms. For example, what is a topic sentence? Yeah. What is a I don't know, supporting sentence? Yeah. Well, you can have the kind of quiz as well, but in the theoretical part. But still, performance-based tests are much better when students perform in that skill. If it is writing, students should write. If it is speaking, students should speak. They should not write a dialect. They should speak. Yeah? So this is direct testing. Indirect, when we test some skills indirectly with the help of other skills. For example, in writing, with the help of writing skill, we can check sub-skills like grammar and vocabulary. So students write an essay. We evaluate their writing skill, but at the same time, we evaluate their grammar and vocabulary indirectly. Yeah. Another example might be when odd one out technique in pronunciation test. Odd one out technique in the pronunciation test. When students have to odd one out, for example, think, thunder, through, and thus. So students must identify a different sound, th sound, and it's thus. So they circle it, but they do not pronounce it, right? They just, if they pronounce it to themselves, and they circle. This is indirect testing. For this reason, direct testing is always preferred. Whenever you can, use direct testing. So make your students pronounce, because they might be able to distinguish a different sound, but they might not be able to pronounce it. Some students cannot pronounce th and the. Yeah, they just say it in their native language, s and z. This is why I use direct testing whenever possible. Discrete point versus integrative testing. It's discrete point when you evaluate only one topic or you use only one skill. Yeah. Integrative when you combine. It's a combination of elements, combination of skills. For example, integrative testing might be dictation, when students listen and write. There is a technique called dictogloss. If you have ever heard dictogloss, it's like dictation, but it's divided into parts, and it includes also pair work when students discuss, and then they report. Yeah, so it's a very nice technique, dictogloss. You can use it during online teaching as well. It's a very nice technique. So in integrative testing, we can combine several skills. In discrete, we don't. Yeah. Examples for discrete, it might composition, taking notes while listening, yeah, a closed passage, yeah, because it's not only grammar, it's vocabulary as well, grammar and vocabulary, and reading at the same time. You have to read the text, use the context, and guess the correct words. Yeah. Next one, norm referenced. An article on bell curve and norm reference and criterion reference testing. In norm reference testing, we compare students with each other. Yeah, in norm reference testing, we compare students with each other. In criterion reference testing, we compare against certain standards. Yeah, so against benchmarks. We'll focus on this in our article at the second lesson after, like, in 20 minutes. Subjective. Well, objective is when judgment is not called for. There is no human judgment. What is it? This might be a multiple choice test. In multiple choice, only one correct answer. It's not like a paraphrase a sentence, or it's not an open-ended question. In there is judgment, right? If it is correct or not, and there might be several correct answers, not only one. This is why actually open-ended questions are avoided in high-stakes exams. They prefer multiple choice. Yeah, they use a lot of multiple choice items. Objective is called for. They're usually productive skills: speaking and writing. Yeah? Nevertheless, detailed rubrics, and if we use several scores, but 2 or 3. In IELTS, if you know, like there are 3 scores. There are 3 independent scores. They don't see the name or the picture of a person. They just get the number, ID, and they score. And they know what their colleagues, what kind of grade their colleagues gave. As a grade. Yeah. All right. Any questions? I'm logging off if you have no questions.